Welcome to Profile, part 2 now of my interview with Dr. Tony Allen, who is president of Delaware State University in the United States. And when part 1 ended last week, we were talking a little bit about, the trajectory of your career. First, that the nonprofit sector, then into corporate America, what you admit is that, was quite a lucrative job, but somehow found yourself back in the education sector. Yeah. And you said all of that was influenced by your mother. What was sort of the impetus for that?
I think it had a lot to do with, for her, her experience. She never had a formal graduation ceremony, for instance. So every time I graduated high school, college, master's, PhD, I remember she would take a picture in my gown. It was very important to both of us. So education, she thought, was the key for me and our family. And I think she thought that broadly for all, particularly Black Americans. And so she was fine with how I was progressing in my career because I was always tying it back to something I was doing, even if that was in a volunteer capacity. I led public education reform in Delaware for 5 years while I was at Bank of America. So it wasn't foreign to me by any stretch. But when that moment came, where it was, again, her and my best friend, Dr. Cornetta Connolly, really just started saying, it's your time. It had a lot to do with where I was in my career, where I was in my personal life, the fact that I felt like I had 2 or 3 acts left. You get to be 47, 45, you start thinking about the couple of acts. And if you were going to do something important as an avocation and a vocation, then would be the time. So I didn't see it as much of a risk because I had so longed to be at Delaware State University. But I knew that it would be a move that would come with some parameters I needed to understand and get used to. And as I said, it became the best professional decision of my life.
That's when you got this job. But on the way to that job, before you got that job, you applied for the top job before.
I did.
And you have spoken very publicly about what you describe as well, you call, in your own words, a sort of failure.
It was.
Explain what happened and why you describe it as a failure.
Well, first of all, I'd say there was a little hubris to it. So when that job was open, I was running then Governor Markell's transition team. So the governor of Delaware, newly elected governor of Delaware, Barack Obama had just become president. I knew the vice president of the United States at the time.
Because you had been the speechwriter before.
Yep. So I thought they're going to see my name. And I didn't have any experience in higher ed. They're going to give me a shot. And I was then 38. And what happened was I got to the finals. So they picked 2 candidates. And it worked out so well that when I got to the finals, they literally scrapped the search and started over. And it humbled me, really humbled me. Told me I had much more work to do, that the road was not finished. I kind of knew the road wasn't finished, but it wasn't my time. And I got to know the president, the guy who became president of Delaware State, who's one of my dearest friends now, runs the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. His name is Harry Williams. Fast forward, that was 2008. 2017, Harry and I are at some dinner. And I say to him, do you ever think I could get an opportunity? I'm still kind of a non-traditional candidate. He said, Tony, you'll get in the finals of every college search you want to, but they're not going to give you the job. You have to find... He
told you that they're not going to give you the job.
They're not going to give you the job. That's his clear words. And what he said was, you can't just jump in at the presidential level. You got to find the highest level you can get into that's reasonable, and then see what could happen from there. And I said, yeah, just write my recommendations, which he did. And guess what? I got in a couple of finals and I didn't get the job. So I came back to Harry again. This is all in 2017. He said, look, I have the provost job open. You'd have to win it. But if you win it, I can promise you, I think good things will happen for you. And I was classically trained, so I have a PhD, and was on the board of the University of Delaware and was doing public education reform K-12. So I had many more tools than I had 10 years earlier. but I also knew, and taught a little bit too, I also knew that I had to get this job for myself. So I worked hard, got the offer, and it was really a fascinating opportunity. Provost is the chief academic officer, as you know, and it is the opportunity for you to really understand the inner workings of every part of the university. And
how did the fact that you had the nonprofit experience and the corporate experience assist in that job?
Because at the end of the day, college and university, they're a business. They're a business with an exceptional mission, but they're a business. So I always thought if we can really make the case for the return on investment here at Delaware State University, our university is going to grow beyond our wildest expectations. I thought that when I got the provost job. And I also thought that partners in the public and private sector are important for our students so they understand the array of possibilities in front of them. Important for our faculty who are doing all kinds of research and community programs that can uplift the community, and important for the African American community that is watching Delaware State proudly. So to me, it all came together really, really nicely, and gave me some time to practice too before I had the opportunity to get the presidential job.
But even so, was there no resistance at all? Because you were coming in as, in a sense, an outsider.
Archie, there's always resistance. So I don't want to suggest that there was no resistance. But I humbled myself. I knew that going into that industry was not the industry that I had a lot of expertise in. I had a lot of other tools that I thought could help that industry, but it was not my primary expertise.
So how did you win people over, people who were skeptics?
Asked questions, asked for feedback many, many times. That Apple program I told you about last week really came from a professor who had been trying to get that program off the ground for 5 years. Put people around me that were subject matter experts in higher education. One of my greatest decisions was hiring a head of our strategic enrollment program, a guy named Tony Boyle, who now runs our international program. He's the reason I'm here in Jamaica now. So making sure that I didn't bring a lot of other corporate types who thought like me but didn't have a sense of the higher education landscape. I really tried to surround myself with folks who would challenge me, but would also support the broader vision and understood the landscape and where we were trying to go.
So in this segment, we've talked a little bit about failure and embracing failure. And next segment, because we have to go to the break, we're going to be talking about family, especially in the context of, and it continues to pervade all of these conversations, race. Because you have sons, so you have to have certain sort of conversations with them. What are the conversations he's having? How does his own life shape how he prepares his family, his sons, his daughter, and, what's marriage like? How do you keep it lasting? We're going to be talking about some of those issues right after the break. Stick around, Profile continues with the president of the Delaware State University right after these messages.